I'm Nicole Bunyon, founder of Running Mums Australia, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by the Gold Coast Marathon and Pogo Physio. I trust you've been having a great week, and I trust that you've been enjoying pursuing your physical best. On today's episode, I share a conversation with you that I had with Running Mums Australia founder Nicole Bunyon. Nicole Bunyon herself is a mother of three, the founder of Running Mums Australia, and an avid runner herself, who in fact just recently completed the arduous Ultra Trail Australia trail running race through the beautiful Blue Mountains. As always, on today's episode, you'll hear the highs, the lows, and the learnings of Nicole Bunyon's story to date. We talk about the beginnings of running for Nicole, what life was like growing up, the catalytic moment that saw Nicole start something for the Running Mums of Australia, the origins of the logo, the challenge of overcoming injury, and what it is that spurs Nicole on to continue to deliver great value through the Running Mums Australia network. This really is a great story. If you're a male, do not tune out. There's a whole lot in here for you, for male listeners. If you're a female, you'll really resonate with this, and if you're a running mum, well, that's a whole nother level. So let's jump in with Nicole Bunyon, Running Mums Australia, this week's featured guest. So Nicole Bunyon, it's great to catch up. Your name's come up multiple times since the Physical Performance Show launched, and just more recently in the waiting room of Pogo Physio, where one of the RMA members, Leslie, actually said, you need to get Nicole on. So here we are. Thanks for jumping on for the interview.
Thanks for having me.
Nicole, let's start with something a little fun, and that's what's one thing that you're learning at the moment?
Well, I'm actually learning to recover better and not to actually feel like I need to be training for things all the time. So I'm actually learning that it's okay to just run for enjoyment and not actually have to sign up to anything. That's what I'm actually learning at the moment.
What's this learning come from? Have you, over the years, sort of always tried to base your training towards a race?
Yeah, I actually have. And over the last sort of 12 months, especially leading up to UTA 100, I've just learnt that, my passion for running really comes from just the enjoyment of getting outdoors and connecting with other people in beautiful places, and that I don't always have to be pushing myself to run the hardest or my best. I just, I really just want to enjoy getting out there. I feel blessed to be able to just get out and run. And I think that, as much as it's great to always have amazing events to run at, I think some of the enjoyment just comes from getting out into nature and experiencing that with others. So I don't want to always be pushing my body to its limits training all the time. I want to get in touch with just the enjoyable side of running at the moment. And
was there anything that happened in your running life that made you start to think about or see it differently? Were there any injuries, or was there, the constant tension of a busy family, of a busy mother with kids and husband and work and life, where you felt like you were neglecting an area and you need to pull it back? Or was there anything that started to sort of shift you towards seeing running differently?
Yeah, there really was actually. And this year particularly, training for UTA, up until 6 foot track, I was under the guidance of a coach. And as much as I liked the training, and I do like pushing myself and my limits, I found it was starting to burn me out, both physically and mentally. And, you know, I do have a lot of things that I do in the background, obviously with RMA, but also with my family. And I found that I felt that it was really competing for my time, and I actually felt a lot of guilt that came as a result of not being able to complete certain sessions, or not even not being able to complete them, but not wanting to even do certain sessions because I found it was always competing for my time. So I actually did change the way I trained, and I decided to train myself for UTA and train when I felt best suited me and the way that I like to train. And yeah, I think that now in hindsight, looking back, that suits me better, and I think that I can have a bit more of a balance. And I actually really started to enjoy running better when I knew that I was starting to feel like it was becoming a little bit of a chore for me, and I didn't like that because I felt like I was starting to lose a bit of the passion. And obviously I need to keep that passion, especially with my role with RMA. But, you know, I really started to feel like if I kept going that way, always feeling like it was results driven, I guess, in a way it was taking away my love of running, and I couldn't see it being sustainable for a really long time. And I really want to run for a really long time and enjoy it and see different things and experience different places. And so I think that it worked for me to train that way, and actually I think I got a better result in the end by training that way.
And so your UTA experience, let's go there now. It's only a matter of, at the time of us recording, several weeks ago. Can you put listeners in perspective that aren't familiar with the overseas listeners, etc., the Ultra Trail Australia event and what the challenge is like, and then how you went and your learnings from that? So 3 things, I guess.
Yeah. So Ultra Trail Australia is a trail race which is run in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. You can choose 3 different distances. So there's a 22-kilometre, 50-kilometre or a 100-kilometre event. The 100-kilometre event is what I competed in this year. I've done the 50-kilometre twice now. And I think it takes you through around 4,400 metres of elevation gain over the 100K, lots of hills, technical terrain, thousands and thousands of stairs, really. But just an amazing trail race that I think is on the agenda of many, many trail runners out there. And, this year I trained in the previous years I've been training for the 50K. Last year I actually signed up to do the 100K. I was a race ambassador for the event, and I ended up injured with a stress reaction only about 6 or 7 weeks out from the event. So I ended up having to pull down to the 50K and have quite a few weeks out of training on a bike. And I still did manage to run the 50 and ran it well and enjoyed the experience. But in the back of my mind, my heart was really wanting to do the longer distance. I really like pushing myself with distance. And I think I found my sweet spot in events that sort of go over 50K, between 50 and 100K. I really enjoy those distances. And so this year I've trained up really well and had a fantastic day. I think the weather was on our side. We had a beautiful, cool day, clear sky, and, no rain. It was just absolutely perfect leading up. So the ground underfoot was perfect. They'd staggered the starts as well this year with the waves, which meant there wasn't any bottlenecks on course. Last year, the weather meant that the 50-kilometre event changed course and was actually running the first part of the 100-kilometre event. And so last year, which was good for me, I actually got to run the first 50Ks of the 100 because that's where the 50-kilometre course ran last year. And so for this year, I had the knowledge of that first 50Ks on the course. And also I had the knowledge of the last 50Ks because I had done not only training on the course but the 50Ks in the previous year as well. So I knew pretty much all of the course, which was great for planning out my race and knowing what was to come. So, my race actually just worked out as probably one of the best races I've ever had. I felt really prepared. There was never a moment where I didn't think I could ever finish. Even, I was obviously nervous leading up to the race, like most people are. You just get those nerves, which I think is a great thing. And the only thing I hadn't really done was train in the dark. I'd only gone out for a few hikes in the dark with my head torch. So that was the only thing that I was quite nervous about. But other than that, everything just worked perfectly. I took the pressure off myself for a time. And I decided that my goal was just to finish happy and finish strong. And I pretty much ran the whole day with a big smile on my face. Like there was never really any moment where I didn't enjoy it. There was definitely some challenging moments in there, but I think my mind was the strongest it's ever been, and I just lapped up every single part of it and the experience. It was just fabulous.
And what was your, in the end, what was your finish time? How many hours were you out there completing the course for?
17 hours and 20 minutes I was out there. So I was really happy with myself. I did want to get a buckle. I knew I wasn't going to get a silver buckle, but I knew I could get the bronze buckle. When I got to checkpoint 5, I knew I was well within my goal. Even if I walked the rest of the way, I could get it, but that wasn't going to happen. I was running as fast as I could down Kadumba, and I got under, my goal was somewhere between 16 and 18 hours is where I knew that I could finish. And, I was stoked that I actually got well within that. So, I felt so strong. Yeah.
Standing ovation at this end. Well done. That 17 hours is an amazing to be out there doing anything for 17 hours is a long time. So that's absolutely terrific. Just for the uninitiated, can you explain the buckle system with the UTA, what the different colours mean?
So if you're under, I think it's 14 hours, you get a silver buckle. And over that, under 20 hours, you get a bronze buckle, and over 20, you get a medal. So, it's really, coveted to get that silver buckle. I would have a very, very long way to go to get the silver buckle, but I was stoked to get a buckle at all.
Isn't that a great example of symbolism of events? Nicole, what's so this would probably be one of the highlights, correct me if I'm wrong, of your running life so far?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, it's been on my bucket list for quite a long time. When I first signed up to do UTA in 2015, I really finished that race. I remember saying clearly that I would never do the 100 kilometres. I remember saying it out loud. But actually, in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to do the 100 kilometres. So it sort of placed that little seed in there that, this is a little bit of a challenge and an adventure. And, that's actually where my love for trails and adventure came from, was from that first time I stepped on the UTA course. I just knew that this was my type of running.
There you go. And it does typify the explosion in popularity of trail running for so many runners, particularly running mums and running dads and runners in general. Nicole, where did your interest in running start? What was life like growing up for you? Were you always sporty as a kid? And, how did running find its way into your adult world amongst your now, 12, 14 and 16-year-old, 3 beautiful children?
Yeah, well, as a child, my parents encouraged us to participate in sport, and my sister, I have a twin sister, we played netball, and we just did that for fun throughout our, early years. And then I never typically was interested in athletics as such. My brother competed in athletics and later on in pole vault and things like that, but I used to go every Friday night, and it just, didn't really interest me, which is quite funny looking back now. And what I did love, though, was just the freedom of getting out there myself, not in any particular organised sport. So I would go for runs around my block and in the trails near our house. I would go walking or running through there. And I do have fond memories of being kind of a young, even like, young teen, like probably 13 or could have even been younger, just running around my block and running around the streets in my local area. And I really enjoyed, I did have a bit of skill for cross-country running and 800 meters. So I knew I had that endurance in me, and I liked to see how far I could go. And I guess I liked getting out in nice places to run. So that, I think, was fostered from an early age. But I didn't really run throughout my late teens or even my early adulthood. Like when I had my children initially, I just walked and went to the gym and things like that. But it wasn't till, later on in life that I found that love of running again.
And how did you find that love of running again? What happened? What was the catalyst?
Well, I'd had my children and I was just, I sort of was sick of going to the gym, and also, it was expensive to go to. I was doing like a PT gym at the time, and being, young family, and I wasn't working as well. I just wanted to find an activity that I could do to keep me fit, lose a little bit of weight that didn't involve, having to fork out any money. And so I just started walking, and then I thought, I might start running. And so I just started running again. And then a friend of mine, she did like a marathon, a half marathon, and I thought, I wonder if I could probably do that. And, we'd been to a few little local fun runs with my husband, and, 5 kilometres, like I thought I was going to die. It was so far. And, but my first fun run, I think, was the Australia Day fun run at Menai, and I finished feeling quite exhilarated and thinking, this is kind of fun. And then, I asked my friend, you should give me a little bit of advice on a training plan for running a half marathon. And I decided to join up, and she was in the committee of the Dubbo Stampede out at Dubbo in New South Wales and in the Central West, and that was their first inaugural half marathon event, and she was on the organising committee. And so I decided that would be my first half marathon, and so hubby and I signed up and we trained in shifts. So he'd go out and then I'd go out, and because the kids were still quite young, and that was 2012, and we both ran that together that day. And I'll never forget it. We were about 18 Ks and I was crying saying, I can't do it, it's so hard, I can't go another step. And he was like, come on, you can. And we kept going, and I just like kicked his butt, like going through the finish chute. I left him for dead. And I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. And our first half marathon, I think we did like a 1:57, which was pretty good, for your first half marathon. And and then the love from there just grew. I had to do something bigger than that. That was just the beginning. Yeah.
And at the end of the Dubbo Stampede, your first half marathon, Nicole, and as you said, you showed Mark, your husband, who was the head of the house that day. Could you have imagined? That was 2012. We're recording in the year 2018. At that point, that 6 years on, you would be the face, if you like, the founder of a running community for mothers of tens of thousands of community members?
Absolutely not. I would not have ever thought that was possible. And I actually think back around that time, I was a young mum. I think I'd just started or was about to start, working at a school, and I hadn't worked for, around 10 years since, I used to be a personal assistant back in the day. And I actually felt like I'd lost my identity and didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I'd pray like, come on, give me something. Like there's got to be something out there for me that can fill that void, and something that I would love doing, that I'd be passionate about. And it's amazing that, a hobby, I guess, turned into something pretty amazing. Yeah, I would never have thought this was ever going to be my path, that's for sure.
You mentioned there, Nicole, you felt like you'd lost your identity. Can you put a bit more around that? Did you mean that, with the focus obviously on your 3 children who, on my math there, would have been 6 years ago, 6, 8 and 10. Did you feel like through those intense child rearing years that out of the workforce, is that what you mean when you say you felt like you'd lost your identity a little bit?
Yeah, like I thought, I felt like as much as I love and I still love being a mum and looking after my children and my family, I felt like I didn't have a career. I didn't have, any real aspirations to be anything, or I didn't really know what I wanted to be. And I felt like as much as I was contributing to the family in that way, I wanted to contribute financially. I wanted to contribute, I guess, something a little bit more than in just my motherhood role. And I felt like, all my life I've been a bit of a high achiever as well, going through school, things like that. And I felt in a way that I'd failed. Like I didn't have anything. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have, any major, diplomas or skills that I thought I could, give to the world. And I felt really kind of lost, actually. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. And I thought maybe I would end up just doing that forever. And I really wanted to give something back to society other than, my role in the home. I wanted to be able to do something else on top of that as well. So I guess I was searching for something, but I didn't really know what my skills were or what I was going to be good at. And, it just fell into my lap, I guess.
Yeah.
And aside, a background was I was always interested in health, and I was always interested in physical activity. I had actually completed half a physical education degree at uni, and for different circumstances I didn't complete that. But I knew that, back then my goal was always to work in public health in a way and in, getting people active or, being healthy. So it's kind of come around in a different way than actually a formal degree, I guess. I'm doing what I probably would have been doing if I had a degrey now.
And it's that sense of contribution, isn't it? I think in no way does it diminish the love and the importance of a parent's role, in society and in lives, but there's also that contribution to community and, that everyone in some way needs to express. So I think this is a fantastic story. Can we join the dots a little, Nicole, from the Running Mums RMA, Australia, as we all know here on Australian shores so well in the running space and in the sporting community space, how that now looks like it does, but where it started, like where did the name even Running Mums Australia come from? What was that first moment where you thought, this is something that I need to develop because it's missing?
Well, I actually, after I did the half marathon, I trained for my first marathon, and hubby wasn't interested in going any further. So I was training for my marathon on my own. And I think it was sort of back then that Facebook was sort of really in its infancy. And so I jumped on Facebook, and it was, very different actually to what it is now. And I noticed I was searching for running related topics, pages, anything I could find, and there wasn't really a lot out there. And I did quite like running on my own, but I felt like it'd be great if there was other people to actually experience that with. And I didn't have any friends that really enjoyed running, so I was doing all my training on my own. And I was following a few different running pages or people. And then when I finished the marathon, it was Sydney Marathon, and I had an absolutely fantastic experience. But I felt like it was a little bit sad that I didn't actually have anybody that could have really shared in that experience and trained with me, or, that I had someone, a community of people, I guess, to share it with. So when I crossed the line, it was really great. My family was there, but that was it, And so I thought, wouldn't it be great to have some other mums or women that loved doing what I was doing and training and running? So, and not only that, to just experience life with, as a mum as well, like on a social capacity. So I just started a group on Facebook. Back then I called it I think it was Aussie Running Mums, and I invited a few people that were the running pages I followed, and I thought, well, maybe they'll know some other runners, their mums or their women, and then they'd invite people, and then those people would invite people, and then before I knew it, it just sort of morphed into this group of women that enjoyed running, and most of them were mums. So that's actually where it started. Very humble beginnings. There was no motivation for it to be any different at that stage. It was just a group of women that chatted about running and advice and races, and we met up at different events. And and then it
just grew from there. Where the singlets, the singlets that are so familiar at any running event here on Australian shores, and I'm sure they dabble internationally as well as travelling ambassadors. But when did the singlets? When did they first get put on? You know, some of the running mums, Nicole.
It was my best friend Louisa. She came over to my house one night, and she just loved the vision that I had with RMA, and she actually gifted me the logo. And she said to me, I've had this done for you. And she gave me the logo and said, this is the singlet you need to make. And one of her friend's sons had designed it, and it was just absolutely perfect. And she said, you can't get it wrong. People can't get it wrong. This is exactly what it says is what it is. Running Mums Australia, that's what we are. And the logo was just perfect. And so, I just engaged a printer who's still our printer today, and got some singlets made up, and put them in the group, who wants a singlet, and it went from there. So, and the logo is just perfect. It's so recognisable anywhere in Australia at any event. They're just everywhere, and it just stands out.
It really does. It's instantly recognisable, and I think it's terrific. I'm just curious, Louisa, your friend, why was her son designing it? Louisa must have said, "Hey, I want to gift this to Nicole." What was the joining the dots there?
It wasn't her son, it was her friend's son.
Oh,
so he was doing graphic design at uni, I think, back then, and he just thought, I'll have a go and a dabble and see what I can come up with. And she asked him to do it, and he did a great job.
You're listening to Nicole Bunyon, avid runner and founder of Running Mums Australia. Share around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of her running life to date. Support for today's show comes from the Gold Coast Marathon. Just like the Physical Performance Show, the Gold Coast Marathon encourages runners of all ages and abilities to push their boundaries and strive to complete a personal challenge. The Gold Coast Marathon is held annually on the first weekend in July. It's a must-do event for any budding athlete, weekend warrior, or family looking for a challenge to complete together. Run for the good times at the Gold Coast Marathon. Visit goldcoastmarathon.com.au. And I recently caught up with Cam Hart, race director, to hear about the backstory of the Gold Coast Marathon, and Cam shared around some of the incredible athletes that have taken to the streets of the Gold Coast for the Gold Coast Marathon weekend.
That's part of our goal that we sat down and looked at about 8 years ago, to look at how do we get our event on the international stage. And we had an aspiration back then was to secure an IWF gold label, so we could be recognised by the top echelon of marathon events. But to do that, you need gold label athletes. Last year we had Sarah Hall and Daisy Linden running our half marathon. As I said, we had all the Australian legends. We've had Lee Troop win our Australian Marathon Championships a few years back. Yuki Kawachi has been running our event, I think, for 6 years, and is returning this year with his mother and his two brothers.
Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through the doors of Pogo Physio to cross their physio finish line. That's where we high-five you and tell you that you finished rehabilitation and celebrate you being back to your physical best. In addition to traditional session-to-session appointments, we offer some industry-first models of care, including our unique 2, 6 and 12-week fixed-fee unlimited access finish line programs and our very popular monthly fixed-fee wellness booster programs, starting from a low $195 per month and including physiotherapy, remedial massage, and active rehabilitation such as clinical Pilates. These fixed-fee services are designed to help you save money and recover faster. To learn more, jump over to pogophysio.com.au. For now, let's jump back with Nicole Bunyon, founder of Running Mums Australia. Nicole, to give listeners a perspective of the popularity of Running Mums Australia, I mean, I recently caught up with Cameron Hart, the race director for the Gold Coast Marathon, and we spoke through the growth in the marathon over 40 years from around about 100 runners to, the festival that it now is, up to 30,000 sort of odd runners. How many women are now involved and engaged in the Running Mums Australia landscape now?
Well, from very humble beginnings, our primary space, I guess, online is on Facebook and our closed group, because that provides us with a nice, secure, safe space. And there's around 35,000 women in that group now. So, and every day it just grows every day. Yeah. Wow,
absolutely. Well done. What an incredible service it is to women and the community in general. Nicole, we always say this show's about the highs, the lows and the learnings. What's been your darkest day as a runner so far over these years?
That's a good question. My darkest day. I think probably when I've been injured. I do remember, there's a few different moments, I guess, that stand out to me. One is like when I was training for UTA 50, my first race, and I was really excited to get out there and train, and I went up to the Blue Mountains on the course, and I was only on the beginning of the boardwalk section, right near the start, and it was really misty and rainy, and I didn't see two steps, and I just went down, and it really damaged my ankle, like really, really badly. And I just knew in that moment that my dream wasn't going to happen for me, that race wasn't going to eventuate in that actual moment because of the damage that I'd done to myself. And not only that, I think that and I see it in RMA a lot, it impacted me because having running being taken away from me from a period of time, I found really hard because I felt like it took away a little bit of that connection that I had with, being able to gather together with other people and run, and sometimes, the clarity that comes from that just mentally and emotionally, being able to release, those things by running with others, stuck being injured is no fun for anyone. So that's one thing that stands out to me. Other one probably would be, not finishing a race. Like recently leading up to UTA, I DNF'd in a trail running event. I felt really unwell on course, and I guess I felt in a way that I disappointed people. And even though I only really run for myself, I guess sometimes I know people are watching, and I felt like, pulling out of a race I disappointed myself and I disappointed other people. But in hindsight, I think, safety is more important, and I don't think it would have been wise to keep going. But, those are the things that I think really have been my darkest days. I haven't been lucky not to have really any really bad things happen.
And I know dark's a fairly, subjective term, but I think that's a great insight. Was that your first race that you had, or event, I should say, that you had DNF'd in?
No, I had DNF'd in one event a few years ago, but it was because I got injured. So I couldn't actually weight bear.
Physically finish.
I literally got it was only like I think it was like 12K event, and I was 7Ks in, and I could not even weight bear. They had to drive me back to the start line. So
what was the injury, Nicole?
It was actually after my ankle injury, and I can't even tell you what the injury was, but it just got worse and worse as I kept running, to the point where I couldn't weight bear. And I had on the MRI, I had a cuboid an issue with my cuboid bone, like inflammation there. So I think there was a little bit of a stress response going on due to the ankle. There was lots of things that ankle injury that snowballed from there. That went on for quite a while.
Yeah, that sounds classical of bone injuries. Nicole, let's jump into some learnings. So the highs, the lows, and the learnings, and then I just want to speak specifically to some mum-related running topics. So, are you ready for a performance round?
Okay, yeah.
Training session you most dislike?
Speed, like tempos, long tempos.
Long tempos. Training session you most love?
Hills. Like 300-metre hills.
Repeats.
I like them.
How many are you doing?
6 to 8.
Yep.
Like, say, 300-metre ones. Yeah, long hill.
Walk back or jog back?
Jog back.
Okay. Favourite pre-race meal? What fuels Nicole Bunyon?
I like salmon and rice and steamed veggies.
Bedtime, morning time, amongst all your responsibilities in life, what does that look like for you?
Oh, I'm so bad. I go to bed so late, like 11:30, 12 o'clock, and lately I'm not getting up to like 7.
I feel like you're talking to me. That's my world at the moment, so I'm on your side there. Who's the athlete that Nicole Bunyon most admires and why?
I think at the moment it would be Taria Pitt. And because I love her resilience of no matter what has been thrown at her, she gets out and has a go.
Yeah. What an inspirational figure. Who's the toughest competitor that you've ever run against, if you want to name one?
Myself.
Oh, that's a very good answer. Why? Explain that one.
I think because I guess you always think you can do better. Yeah, but really you only have to please yourself, I guess. But I think, you're your worst critic.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I love that. Is there a mantra that you use when you run, when you do an event?
Yeah, I'm strong and I'm able.
Beautiful. Your best recovery tip, Nicole, what would that be?
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Half an hour finishing. Chocolate milk.
Brilliant. Well, there comes some, hopefully some calcium. That's great. One word to describe your running style, how you approach your running, what would that be?
Adventurous.
How would you describe being in the zone?
Being in my bubble. So just feeling free and in my bubble where no one else can touch me or talk to me. Yeah.
When was the last time you were in your bubble in the zone?
At UTA 100, going down Kadumba and back out again.
And how many Ks into it was that?
80.
80. So that's nice. What's the funniest thing you've ever seen, Nicole, in all your running, all your training, all your events out there, either running, racing, competing that is, or training? Any really funny moments that stand out?
Oh, I saw a banana running along at the race up at Noosa the other weekend, a man in a banana suit. That was pretty funny.
And what's the hardest session you've ever done?
Hardest session I've ever done. Goodness. I can't even think of that. Probably, like I said, I hate the long tempos. Probably I think I have had to do like a 12K tempo before, something like that. I just hate running fast for a long period of time.
And the last question in the performance round, what's the silliest thing that you've ever done managing an injury?
Kept running when I shouldn't be running.
i.e. bony stress injuries, hey?
Yeah.
Brilliant. You're out of the performance round, Nicole. You can mark that up as a session for the day. Well done. Nicole, if you could boil, I just want to ask you this before we talk about some running mums general things. If you could boil everything you've ever learnt through your role as founder, face of Running Mums Australia, and also your own running, to date, what would be one piece of advice, and it's across the board for all listeners, non-runners alike, that you would offer for listeners to help them perform at their physical best? Just one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think not to compare yourself with other people and to just do what works for you. but always keep challenging yourself. But yeah, I think comparison takes away the joy that you're going to get out of your running. So that's my best advice, would not to be compare.
That's so powerful, and obviously it transcends just running, doesn't it? And has it been a time, maybe in your early part of your running life, where you were comparing yourself to others?
Oh, most certainly. Yeah. Thinking, I want to, I'm not as fast as them, or I can't go as far as them, but yeah, I think that's something that I've learned over time, is it doesn't matter. You can get just as much joy as anybody else. And actually the joy is really found when you really find who you are as a runner and compete against yourself only. Like, I think, that's where the joy is found. When you do the things that make you love running.
And I find that as a long-term runner myself, one of the most beautiful things about running and the running community is everyone knows there's always someone faster. And so it is just that, you are just competing against yourself, which is so pure and refreshing. Nicole, I want to ask you some things around the running mum scene. You mentioned the word guilt earlier on at the top of our interview. Is it possible, and I'm asking as a father of two beautiful girls here as well, is it possible for parents to train and not feel guilty?
I think so. I don't feel guilty anymore like I used to. I think because I think you've got to look at it a little bit differently. I'm lucky. I also have a very supportive support network. Like, my husband and my family are very supportive of my running, and he does put up with a lot, because there's a lot of times I'm away at events, or I am away a lot on weekends, things like that. But I think that if what you're doing, and it can be in any facet of life, but if what you're striving for and working towards is making you happy and giving you a sense of achievement in your life, then I don't feel like there's a place for guilt in that. And also that it makes me a better person, and it makes me a happier mum. It makes me a better mum, because I feel like I have something to offer, and I've also my children are impacted and actually learn from my lifestyle now. And I often see and hear from my kids that they are proud of me, and that they can't believe they have a mum that does the things that I'm doing. And I hear that a lot about a lot of mums in RMA too, that, even their little kids that write them little notes to say how proud they are of their mums, because they can run so far, or, in their childhood language that they use. But, I think we've got to start celebrating ourselves too, and not feel guilty. And I think the guilt would strip you from doing it and keep doing it. So, obviously there's got to be a balance. You can't just be running all the time. But yeah, I think that, it's important to have balance. And I think it's important for our kids to realize that it's good to work towards things and strive for different goals as well. And yeah, I don't think there's really a need for guilt, but I can definitely see how that does come into play with a lot of mums, and dads.
And dads, I think it's such a great topic to talk on. It's liberating to hear someone like yourself, give a great perspective around, the need to, set a good example for kids and other people in the community, and also, look after yourself. And we both know the benefits of running, so for our health. So that's terrific. What do you think, Nicole, are or serve as some of the biggest barriers, for mums who feel like maybe they, look at their friends running an event, maybe a park run on the weekend, or a local event, and they feel like they could never do that? What would you say to mums like that to encourage them, to give them a bit of guidance?
I hear it all the time, that, I think that women sometimes just limit themselves in what they think is achievable or possible. And maybe a lot of that is the fear of doing something new, or again, comparing themselves to others. So, I couldn't possibly run 5 kilometres at parkrun because I've never gone that far, and I would be last, so the fear of of being last, or the fear of never having done it before, or the fear of not knowing how to do it. So I think, you know, in RMA particularly, if people put up posts like that in our group, the response is always to just have a go anyway. You know, you're in a space where you just trying is going to be celebrated. So, and having a go, being surrounded is so much easier than having a go on your own. And that's where RMA is so good, because women are at all different stages in our network. So you have complete beginners who come and say, I have never even tried running. I want to learn how to run, you know, just 1 kilometre. Like, where do I start? To women that have run at the Olympic Games, you know. So there's such an array of women in our network, and there's such great advice that comes from every woman towards this person who wants to take their first step, you know, and they know that if they're going to go and try it, maybe it'll be better if they do it with someone else. So that's where RMA is so great and so powerful, is that people will say, well, come to parkrun with me, I'll run with you, or come and train with me, I'll train with you, I'll show you how to do it. And so it becomes so much more achievable to people. You know, the barriers kind of lifted, and that's where I've seen that there's been a massive shift, and I feel there is a massive shift with women in running in particular now, especially at events and over longer distances, and especially in trail running. It's so much more achievable now when people see that others have done it, or that they can do it together, and they can train together, and they can complete it together. So yeah, I think the barriers, you know, are really coming from fear more than anything, that women put limits on themselves. But as soon as they see that someone else is just like them, just an everyday person just like them, is able to do such amazing things, it just makes it feel so much more achievable.
And the power of community example there, isn't it? And, you know, you sharing there, Nicole, just made me think of when I sat down to write You Can Run Pain-Free several years ago. I remember researching the trend drivers of the running boom, the second running boom, if you like, and I recall that in the US, 56% of competitors in any running event in America were women. So there is a real movement.
Yes, definitely. I think in the Noosa Marathon a few weekends ago that I was up, there was over 60% females as participators in the event. And yeah, in trail running in particular at UTA, especially in the last few years, the shift is like, it's just skyrocketed with the amount of females participating. It's just getting bigger and bigger every year.
You're listening to Nicole Bunyon, founder of Running Mums Australia. Share around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of her running life to date. If you missed last week's episode featuring US pro triathlete Cam Dye, then here's a little snippet.
The darkest, I mean, dark might not be the right word, but one of the hardest races I've ever had was the only race I've ever dropped out of. And I had a pretty good season. So we had decided, okay, well, we'll do Miami 70.3. But I remember going down there, even the week leading up, it was just this like weird feeling about not really being that excited to race. And normally I can turn that on. I can, get to race week, and no matter what's going on in my life, I can turn it on.
To tune into the full episode and explore the archives of the Physical Performance Show, jump over to pogophysio.com.au, flick through the show notes, or simply peruse the archives from your favourite podcast player. Let's jump back with Nicole Bunyon, founder of the Running Mums Australia Network. And Nicole, can you give an example of a really inspirational transformation story, or just something that you think would, highlight the power of a running mum making those first steps, getting connected, and then, the things that are possible as a result?
Yeah. Well, one particular story, there's so many,
of course,
that stands out to me is actually one of my friends, good friend now actually, who I'm training, Laura, her name is, and she came on board a few years ago, and she hadn't really run that far, and she just got straight in there and went to learn from everybody who was around her, and she ran her first marathon and things like that, and did amazing. She wasn't anything special in terms of an elite runner or anything. She was just your everyday woman getting out there and having a go. And then this year, she took a year off basically of training for things. She was due to have her baby early this year, and she trained through her pregnancy, was just inspiration actually to lots of women. And unfortunately, her baby was born stillborn. And the resilience that I've seen through Laura, through this experience that should have broken her, and actually, really broke a lot of us who are close to her, I can just see the transformation that's come through this woman and the impact that she's had on so many other people. She picked herself up, and of course every day is a challenge, and every day would be so difficult to get out of bed, but she gets out there and she has a go. And the first thing she said to me when she'd had her beautiful baby was that she didn't want to stop running, because that was part of her and that was what was going to get her through. And so I agreed to work with her and train her, and only like 5 months after having her beautiful baby, she completed the UTA 22-kilometre race in a fantastic time and a great experience. And she crossed the line with a massive smile on her face. And you can just see the, I guess, relief of completing that goal, doing it for her daughters, and, showing others that anything's still possible. You can still rise to the challenge no matter what obstacles come your way. And she's going on to do even bigger and better things, throughout this year. So that's one story that I know hers has resonated with a lot of women who've been in a similar situation to her. And there is a lot of women in RMA that have been in that sort of situation. So to me, RMA is all about that one woman and their story, because every one of us have a story, and, it's relatable, and people can relate to each other and gain inspiration from each other's stories. And we're a place where it's okay to share and nobody criticizes or judges. It's not just a place about running, if that makes sense. That's just the vehicle that we use, but it's actually just about the women and the stories that impact each other, and change lives, really.
It totally makes sense, and thanks for sharing such a powerful story and example there. Nicole, a bit of a fun question to get to know the personality behind Nicole Bunyon, and that is, if you could have 3 people at your dinner table, living or past, who would be at your dinner table and why?
Okay, this is hard, but I would have my grandfather, who has passed, because I don't think I've ever met a man who I've, has impacted my life so much, and I miss him every single day. So I wish I could have another meal with him. I'd have Tria Pitt, because I just want to meet her and talk to her. I think she's just the most amazing person. And then, last one's really hard. I'd probably have Jesus. I think. Yeah.
Well,
maybe ask him a question.
Humanity's hope. That's you don't need to explain that one, Nicole. And so, Nicole, if you could issue listeners this week with a physical challenge for the week, what's Nicole Bunyon's physical challenge to listeners for the week going to be?
I challenge everyone to go out for a run in nature without their watch on. Take off the pressure of time, distance, pace, and just get out and run for fun, as far as you want, as fast as you want, as slow as you want, and just to stop amidst that run and just look around.
Wow, brilliant. Get disconnected, to technology. So that's terrific. Nicole, if listeners want to find out more about your journey, Running Mums Australia, where's the best place for them to do so?
Yep, so you can find us on our website, which is runningmumsaustralia.com.au. And you can also find us under groups on Facebook as well. But we have links on our website, and also our Facebook page has links to our private closed group as well.
Fantastic. Nicole Bunyon, what you're doing is very significant work, and thank you for so generously sharing today, and all the best. I must ask you, is there anything on your bucket list for running? At the top of our time today, you said you'd done the UTA and you were starting to appreciate running for more than just events, but is there anything that you would still like to compete in? I'm sure there is.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of things out there that would take my fancy. I really would like to compete in an international ultra eventually. There's quite a few out there that I like the sound of. But yeah, just watch this space. We'll see what happens in the next few years. Brilliant.
Well, we wish you all the very best for your family and also Running Mums Australia and anything that you put your hand to. So thank you for today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there you have it. Another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust that you enjoyed the sharings of Nicole Bunyon. If you did, then please let both myself and Nicole know. You'll find our social media handles over at pogophysio.com.au along with a copy of the show notes. If today was your first time tuning into the Physical Performance Show, then a mighty welcome. If it was your 114th time, then a huge thank you for your ongoing support. If you know of someone in your world that would enjoy the sharings of Nicole, then please consider taking a moment to share the episode. That means a lot to both myself and also Nicole. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you would like to get the episodes as they go live at 9 p.m. every Thursday evening, automatically updated in your device each and every week. Big thanks to everyone who's been leaving ratings and/or reviews over on iTunes. That certainly helps the Physical Performance Show reach more people who, just like you, are looking to perform at their physical best. A big thanks this week to long-time The Physical Performance Show listener Dave Reesby. Dave rated the show 5 stars and commented, "What can I say that hasn't already been said? What a great podcast. The line of questioning from yourself, Brad, the hours dedicated to researching athletes and guests, with the enthusiasm behind producing such a quality show, really it's second to none. Something can be taken out of every episode, whether that be training tips, mental cues during a rough patch, or just the reminder that high-performing athletes do have everyday problems like the rest of us, i.e. not getting enough sleep. I look forward to each new podcast that comes out and wish to thank you, Brad, for being so generous with passing on your knowledge and tips for people to perform at their physical best. I wish you nothing but success in the future. And after listening to podcast 100, I'm sure nothing other than this will be the case. Keep up the great work, Dave Reesby." Wow, Dave, that is absolutely a stunning piece of feedback to receive. And so thank you. Certainly learning a lot as we go. And in many ways, even at episode 114, Dave, we feel like we're still just getting started. So thank you for taking the time to leave that review. A big thank you to the team who make the Physical Performance Show possible. Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, Matthew Olding on all things graphic design, and our audio engineer guru, Daryl Misson, making the sound what it is. Another big thank you to the Gold Coast Marathon, today's sponsor of this show. Podcasts are certainly free to download, however, they are not free to produce. The Gold Coast Marathon really is a remarkable event held on the picturesque course along the Gold Coast beautiful Broadwater. Choose from Garmin 2 or 4 kilometre junior dashes, 5.7 kilometre fun run, the Southern Cross University 10 kilometre road run, the ASICS Half Marathon, or of course the Gold Coast Marathon Blue Ribbon event. I'll be there in 2018 and each and every year, so come say hi if you're around, or find the Pogo Physio tent near the finish line and get ready for the good times. We have just one more week left to take part in the Physical Performance Show podcast quiz. This is your chance to have your say about the show, to provide feedback, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. It's all warmly received and all acted on. I've been reviewing the feedback as it's been coming through, and certainly we're taking into consideration how we can best implement your feedback to continue to improve the show. To say thanks for taking the time, you can go in the draw to win a $100 movie voucher to the cinemas of your choice if you are the lucky random draw winner from the Physical Performance Show podcast quiz. To take part and have your say, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/podcast, and there you'll find the link to the quiz. This week's Podsy of the Week winner, winning a signed copy of You Can Run Pain Free, my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, is Emma Quinn. Emma posted a picture up on Instagram and tagged us in whilst she was pulling on her socks for a 16.5k easy run recently at the Cairns Ironman Triathlon Festival. Emma was enjoying listening to Lionel Sanders whilst out enjoying the picturesque running tracks of Cairns. You can find Emma over on Instagram, Emma_Quinn_88. And Emma is the head coach of T0 Multisport and a very keen and capable triathlete herself. So Emma, thanks so much for your support of the show. And I know, as did so many listeners, that you would have taken a whole lot out of Lionel Sanders' Ironman Triathletes sharings. He was absolutely fantastic. You can find a Lionel Sanders interview, episode 92, wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, we're now also available on Spotify. Coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, episode 115, I recently caught up in person with Kenny Wallace, OAM. Ken was the gold medalist from the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, where he took gold in the K1 500-meter kayak sprint. Ken also picked up a bronze medal at the Beijing Games in the K1 1,000 meters. Ken then went on in the 2016 Olympic Games to take out the bronze medal in the K2 1,000 meters with teammate Lachlan Tame. This is a whole lot of fun. Ken's quite a character. He so passionately and vividly recalls the racing leading up to his gold medal and bronze medal performances in Beijing. He'll be going for what will be his fourth Olympic Games come Tokyo in 2020. So you're going to really enjoy Ken Wallace sharing on next week's episode, followed by Brad Carterfeld, former Commonwealth Games triathlon champion, who himself is preparing for his first road marathon at the time of recording, who will feature after Ken Wallace. So be sure to stay tuned for more of the Physical Performance Show. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.